I hate this looping life. My legs are numb from running errands all day at work from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Feels like an endless loop to me. The sound of the wheels rolling steadily on the tracks is like a sad song, repeating over and over without end. Suddenly, the lights in the train car go out. The air around me becomes cold and the train shakes violently. A voice comes over the loudspeaker. "There is a problem on the train, please remain calm." Then quickly announces, "This is Shinkansen Guruguru Zero headed to Tokyo." My heart pounds, and I decide to go to the other cars to check on the situation. But strangely, every car looks the same, and each one bears the number 4. My head starts spinning with unanswered questions. The same man is slumped against the wall. The same old man sits in the corner of the car. "You've fallen into a loop," he says, his voice deep and ominous. "A loop?" I ask, not understanding what he means. "Yes, to escape you must follow the rules. If you see something unusual, turn back. If you see nothing unusual, keep moving to the next car," the old man said. I look around again. Everything around me is identical to the previous cars, from the seat designs to the dim lighting and stifling air. But as I move further in, a shiver runs down my spine, like the feeling of being watched. Suddenly, I see a human hand on the train floor, sticking out from under a seat. It moves as if trying to grab me. My heart stops for a moment and fear surges up. A headless body was trying to cling to me, creeping closer to me, and its hands were reaching out as if searching for something. I realize this is something unusual, just as the old man said. I turn around, ready to run forward. Suddenly, a head fell right before my eyes. Its eyes are wide open, lifeless, and its mouth is agape as if trying to scream, but no sound comes out. In a split-second reaction, I dodge the bizarre head instinctively to avoid danger. I crawl into. Before I can catch my breath, suddenly, the sound of breaking glass comes from above. Water starts pouring into the car quickly like an invisible monster. I can't think, just act as fast as I can, my feet pounding on the floor. My heart races, breaths coming in gasps. The water rises, nearly reaching my knees. Although the strong current was blocking me, I still tried to move forward as quickly as possible. Just in time. My heart feels like it will explode, having narrowly escaped the dangerous water. Entering car number 2, I see the man who was asleep before is now awake, sitting upright. At first I don't notice, but then I see his legs sticking out, moving like octopus tentacles. When I accidentally look into his eyes, they suddenly glow, cold and malevolent. He screams, the sound echoing through the car, then stands up, chasing after me. My heart races and my legs seem to gain strength from the fear. I turn and run as fast as I can toward the door, but the distance between me and the octopus man is quickly shortened. I can hear his tentacles stretching out. The door to the car closes just as I barely make it through. Car number 1. I sigh in relief, barely escaping the pursuit. Car number 1 is eerily quiet. I carefully search everywhere, checking each seat, every corner, hoping to find some sign. Each step makes my heart beat faster. Nothing unusual. I check every little detail, but everything is normal. I decide to take a risk. Thankfully, I step into car number 0, feeling a blanket of calmness. This is the last car. I think I'm close to escaping the loop. This car looks completely normal, with no signs of anything unusual. I sigh in relief, thinking I've finally escaped the nightmare. But then, just as I'm about to leave the car, I notice something moving in the corner. A strange creature stands up from a seat, its eyes glowing brightly in the dark. Its skin blends with the patterned seat fabric, making it invisible until now. The creature starts moving toward me, quickly and silently. Panicked, I turn and run toward the other door. The creature is almost upon me. Its footsteps are heavy. Its breath is cold like a freezing wind on my neck. I run as fast as I can, but it feels like I'm never fast enough. The creature is getting closer. I can feel its presence right behind me. Just as I reach the door, a seat suddenly flipped down, tripping me up, and I fall to the floor. The creature lunges, its long, bony arms ready to grab me. I can't do anything but close my eyes, bracing for the inevitable end. I wake up after a bizarre dream. A worried woman looks at me suddenly, concerned in her eyes, asking, "Do you know why everything seems to be repeating? You've fallen into a loop." I can't control my voice. If you want to escape, remember the rules. If you see something unusual, run straight ahead, don't look back. I woke up at 4 a.m. thirsty. As I shuffled toward the kitchen, I noticed a light spilling out from Ethan's room. It was strange. Ethan was usually a deep sleeper. I paused outside his door, worried by the unusual glow. As I peered inside, I saw my son standing motionless by the window. "Ethan?" I whispered, trying to rouse him. He didn't turn around or notice me. Instead, he continued to stare out into the dark night. Suddenly, he turned to me and said, "It's time." His voice was a chill ran down my spine. I tried to shake it off, convincing myself it was just a dream or a minor disturbance. I walked back to bed, but I couldn't sleep. The strange words echoed in my mind. "It's time." What did that even mean? The following night, I decided to keep a closer watch. As the clock struck 4:13 a.m., Ethan was once again standing by the window, his silhouette as a ghostly figure against the night. I was about to approach him when I heard it, a soft, deliberate knock on the front door. My heart raced as I hurried downstairs, but when I opened the door, there was no one there, just an empty porch in the moonlight. The next morning, I questioned Ethan about the odd occurrences. He looked at me with wide, innocent eyes and claimed no memory of getting up during the night. It was unsettling, but I had to admit that children often have peculiar dreams. Night after night, the routine persisted. At 4:13 a.m., Ethan would stand by the window and the knocking on the door would start. Each time I'd rush to check, only to find nothing but silence. Exhaustion wore me down, and I started dreading 4:13 a.m. One cold night at exactly 4:13 a.m., as I watched from the doorway, Ethan raised his small hand and pressed it against the window. I froze when I saw a hand on the other side, mirroring his. The fingers were long, skeletal, and blackened with decay. The skin was pale and waxy, like someone who had been submerged in water for too long. Panic surged through me. I reached out to pull Ethan away, but he collapsed in convulsions. I scooped him up, cradling him in my arms as the room filled with a chilling, familiar, distorted voice.
We can be together again.
It was Marie's voice, my wife who had died a year ago. Marie had suffered from a rare autoimmune disorder that made her body decay while she was still alive. I carried Ethan downstairs, my heart pounding with fear and confusion. At the foot of the stairs stood Marie, or what looked like her. Her skin was rotting, her eyes sunken, and she wore the dress we buried her in. Her limbs stretched and twisted in unnatural ways. It was her, yet it wasn't. Her mouth twisted into an eerily
I've come to take our son home.
No! I screamed, clutching Ethan closer. You're not taking him! Desperation clawed at me as I fled back upstairs, Ethan in my arms. I slammed the door shut and hid by the bed, my heart pounding. Ethan, barely able to speak, said in a trembling voice, "Daddy, Mummy always comes at 4:13 and wants us to be a family again." My mind was spinning. I accidentally looked up and saw a photo of 3 of us hugging each other. April 13th, the day Marie died. How had I not realized it before? Fear seeped into my bones as the door exploded open. Marie's twisted form slithered through the bed, her eyes glowing with a sickly yellow light.
Found you!
She hissed, her voice like nails on a chalkboard. In a desperate attempt, I opened the window to climb over to the roof, trying to escape the house. The air was frigid, and a feeling of hopelessness washed over me. "Ethan! We need to go! Now!" I shouted, pulling him close. But as I turned to climb, Ethan's small hand clung to mine. "Daddy, no! I want to be with Mummy!" My heart broke. "Ethan, listen to me! That's not your mother! We need to get out of here!" Ethan's grip tightened, his eyes filled with longing and fear. "Please, Daddy! I miss her!" Before I could argue further, the temperature in the room plummeted. Marie's grotesque figure emerged from the shadows. Her smile twisted into something both horrifying and triumphant.
Ethan! Come to Mommy!
She crooned, her voice full of malice. Ethan's eyes lit up with a mix of fear and longing. He began to move towards Marie, and I felt a pang of despair. "No!" I screamed, pulling Ethan back with all my strength. "Stay with me!" But Ethan broke free from my grasp, running into Marie's cold, outstretched arms. She embraced him, her face contorted in a sickening smile of victory. Marie's limbs wrapped around us, pulling us both into her icy, hard grip. The window, once a beacon of escape, now sealed us in with Marie's chilling embrace. The last thing I remember was Ethan's terrified face turned calm, his eyes locked on me with a mix of love and fear. And now, we're a family again.
Do you know what it's like to be the only one who sees someone? It's like playing tricks on your own mind. I don't think I had the ability to see ghosts. Because if I do, I would have seen more by now. But no, I only see her, and no one else but me sees her. The first time I noticed her, I was walking along the bridge by myself. The bridge was desolate, just her and me. With her black dress and hair blowing in the wind, she followed behind me, keeping a distance of half a mile. I didn't pay much attention and continued living my life, unaware of what was slowly approaching me. After months of not seeing her, I saw her again in the supermarket parking lot one late night. Under the dim lights, she stood alone, about 200 meters away from me, but still too far to see her face clearly. However, with that familiar black dress and long hair, I was certain it was the girl I had seen on the bridge. But I started seeing her more frequently. Every time I parked in a large lot, I would see her peeking at me, still, in that black dress and hair blowing in the wind. I began seeing her in my neighborhood. At night, looking out the window, I saw her lurking in the shadows in the trees in my backyard. I called the police. They came to check the yard, while she stood still, unmoving, just staring at me. They walked around her, even touched her, but they said they saw nothing, not even footprints. I tried to push it out of my mind, but she kept getting closer and closer. I had dinner with friends at a restaurant and saw her standing across the street. I walked my dog and saw her looking at me in front of neighbors' house as I passed by, closer and closer, to the point where now I could see the expression on her face clearly. A bit of mascara running down her cheek. She was crying but smiling. She looked happy. Maybe those were tears of joy. Sometimes I thought it was the face of someone who had lost a loved one but was recalling the good times they had together. But sometimes, when I was in a bad mood, I saw it as the face of someone depressed, completely devoid of spirit. I couldn't sleep with her staring at me, following me everywhere, even when I cooked, cleaned, and watched TV. I tried talking to her, but she didn't respond. I pleaded, cried, but she never made a sound, never moved, never blinked. After that, I took leave from work. I lost the will to eat or sleep. I spent my time pacing the room, yelling at the girl at the window, then crying. I cried because I thought I was insane, completely lost my mind. I had tried to build a good life, but now it was over. All because of her. Luckily, I had Poodle by my side encouraging me. I decided to ignore her, but it was not easy. Unable to sleep, I habitually looked at the window where she usually stood, but she wasn't there. I ran to my backyard to check. Nothing. I had never been this scared in my life. Where was she? The worst part was, I couldn't shake off the feeling of being watched. It felt creepy, but I thought again. This was my chance. I needed to sleep. And then I saw she was there. In the corner of the room, just a few steps away. My mind started spinning. She was in my house. This was a home invasion. I panicked, terrified, and disgusted. I ran to the kitchen and grabbed a knife. I didn't know if the knife would affect her, but I wanted to defend myself. I threw things at her, but they went through her. I had to do something. I couldn't just stand there throwing things uselessly. I ran to the garage, got in the car, and started it. At least I could get her out of my house. But when I looked back to reverse, she was sitting in the back seat. I was horrified, quickly opened the door, and ran. I ran far, but every time I looked back, she was there, keeping a certain distance, not overtaking or falling behind. Finally, I reached the police station. They put me in an isolation cell, about 5 square meters, with a small bed, a toilet, and a sink. I didn't know what the charge was. I was just happy to be in a place with many people, but she was still there, behind the cell door. I breathed a sigh of relief because at least she wasn't in the same area as me. I dozed off a bit. I didn't know how long I slept, but when I woke up, she was kneeling beside me with a painful smile. Before I could scream, she reached out and touched my forehead, and my brain exploded in a sharp pain, then spread down my arms and chest. My heart constricted, my breath shortened, and my vision narrowed. I woke up in the hospital. The doctor said I had a heart attack. Luckily, there were medical staff in the jail who saved me, and that happened about 6 months ago. Why am I telling this story? Because 6 weeks ago, I started seeing her again. She moved faster this time, more clearly. She looked angry, extremely furious, and she was holding something behind her back. I am not sure what it is. I don't care anymore. Soon I will take sleeping pills and go to sleep. I guess she will be standing by my bed when I wake up. I just feel sorry for my dog. I tried to give it a good life. I've left a message for my sister to pick it up tomorrow noon.